Dow Jones last night closed with gains of about 148 points, and the S&P 500 also closed with gains of about 19 points, and Nasdaq added about 52.37 points as on yesterday. So looking at this, the European and at the same time the Asian markets. Actually, Asian markets are trading at about, with a mixed reaction, but the European markets gave a smart and a positive close as on yesterday. If we look at the FTSE exchange, that's the London markets, closed at about 8 points plus. The CAC index of the France nation, that's closed about 36 points plus, and the DAX index in the Germany closed about 48 points. With these gains, if we come back to the Asian markets, yes, we look into that with a kind of reaction coming up from different stock exchanges, with about a couple of exchanges are in negative and the other ones are in the positive range. So let's know which are those ones. Nikkei is trading with gains of about 0.66% right now, with 141 points stronger. Straits Times, which is a Singapore stock exchange index, trading at about -4 points, which is also can be called as a flat movement right now. So we are looking at Hang Seng markets, that's trading at about just the flat range, again in the positive territory with 37 points. And looking at the Shanghai, the Chinese stock exchange, that's trading -17 points and about losing about 0.6% right now. And if we get into the SGX Nifty, which is trading in the Singapore Stock Exchange at about 1.5 point gains, that's trading at 11,385 points right now. So this is the market index in news. Now coming to the other headlines, that's oil. It has edged higher as on yesterday because it's holding near the 4-month high, because that's a rare kind of a scenario. Since 4 months, the markets, crude oil has been on a selling spree, but right now the experts are expecting kind of a small amount of a bullish trend in the crude oil in the international dollar markets, because the supply cuts are coming up in the market right now. The supply cuts are going to get aggressive, so in that case the crude may remain stable to stronger is what the expected kind of news across the world. Now coming to the Indian rupee against the dollar has strengthened 17 paisa about in the US dollar, and made also a 2-month high. It is trading as on yesterday, it closed about 69 rupees 54 paisa as on yesterday. So let's also look into the markets reaction today. How are they going to open with this kind of a positive indications given yesterday? So once the market, money markets open, we would be able to get a clearer picture on that. Now the RBI has injected liquidity worth about $5 billion into our system. So how the markets are going to take that news into their stride, we need to wait and watch till the market opens today. Now, Mr. Rahul Bajaj, who is the chairman of Bajaj Finserv, has resigned, and this announcement was given by the entire exchange and to the media, making this important decision, because accordingly, once the stock going to react accordingly, and would that be a positive move or can that be a negative move? We need to wait and watch for that too, because the stock has gained from about 5,990 levels up to the 6,500 levels. So that's the kind of strong movement what the stock has indicated, and also remain stable around those levels as well even till yesterday. Now coming to the stocks which are in ban period in the derivative segment, that's on the 14th March as on today, that's BEML, IDBI Bank, Reliance Infra, Reliance Power, and Jet Airways as well. So these are the stocks to be avoided, not to take any derivative positions as they are into the ban period. Now, coming to the important topic what we are going to discuss today, that is, as we are almost ending in this financial year of 2018 and 19, and the 31st March would be the last day for the current financial year. So as an investor, as an employee, or as a businessman, every individual has a big responsibility to get their action, set their action plan for the coming new financial year starting from the 1st of April 2019 and 20. So what are the kind of important points and what are the precautions, and what are the kind of financial planning or maybe tax planning, at the same time investments, and what are the kind of directions one need to follow. Because we have an expert today, and this gentleman, he's a professional chartered accountant, and that is Mr. Suresh Babu. So I welcome Suresh sir today in our show. So this is really important. Why? Because we are in the next 15 days closing the current financial year status. So what one has to look into the major concerns, especially when it gets into tax planning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Anil.
Good morning, sir.
Now we are in closure of 18-19 financial year. Rightly you said we need to think about three. In this financial year 18-19, we need to think first. We'll go back 17-18 financial year. Usually, what happens? The small earning of salary people or small business people, sometimes they may forget to file income tax returns. The first, any person need to check about whether they have filed their income tax returns for the financial year 17-18. The due date is already completed, but they have one more chance to file their income tax returns before 31st March 2019. If those who have not filed, please ensure to file their income tax returns. One thing is, it is the responsibility of who is earning the taxable income, they need to file. That is one thing. And another thing, which people where we used to see a small business people or small salaried peak category people or whoever it may be, when they would like to go for any housing loan, especially, the one of the requirement of the sanctioning of loan is they may ask for income tax returns for 2 years or 3 years, which is missing by majority of the individuals. Which one concern they need to keep in mind, and those who are not filed, it is an opportunity to file before 31st March 2019. That is one thing. Another thing, for the financial year 18-19, the due date for paying entire advance tax is 15th March of 2019 for whatever earnings of this current financial year. If anybody is having taxable, the tax amount is more than 10,000 rupees, they're supposed to pay their tax before this 15th of March. So they need to calculate their taxes and they need to pay advance tax to avoid interest under section 234B and 234C. This is one important thing. Another thing which they need to keep in mind is the savings. Especially some of the savings like insurance policies or Mediclaim benefits, all these savings are on payment basis. Unless you make a payment, you will not be eligible, even though the due date is for the financial year. Sometimes what happens, the grace period, the due date falls under, let us say, 10th of March. The grace period may be 1 month. The actual due date may fall into April. If anybody pays into April, whatever they pay, that premium will not be considered for the savings for running financial year. So one need to ensure any insurance policies or what you call municipal taxes on the house property, these kind of things, please ensure to pay before 31st of March of this financial year. This is another thing. And when it comes to the taxes, usually small taxpayers, the problem is when the year starts, they may think whatever the taxes we can pay at the end of the year. Another thing one needs to keep in mind, entire tax liability, if you can pay at the month of March, let us say you're supposed to pay lakh of rupee. Entire lakh, if you don't pay on equal installments, the entire burden will come and sit only in the last month. So your financials will get affected. And so this, whoever missed it, at least they can plan for 19-20 financial year, keeping in mind what are the tax liabilities, what are their investment for tax saving schemes. Either it may be insurance policies or Mediclaim or any investment into mutual funds. They can plan accordingly and they can plan to pay their advance taxes properly on a quarterly basis.
Okay. Now, first, also, let's also know the Nifty index as on what happened exactly yesterday. Nifty opened in the positive, and after an initial consolidation, it headed forward, towards fresh 6 months high of about 11,350, zones. However, it formed a small bodied candle, with about comparative big lower shadow, which is similar to hanging man. This is a technical point of view which many of the technical analysts would love to know most of the times, because index is going to drive the entire market either into the bearish or the bullish kind of zones. So these are the kind of expectations what has been happening all these days, and this is what has been the observation as on yesterday if we look into the Nifty index. Now coming to the Nifty movement, especially the Nifty would face a resistance somewhere about 11,450 to 11,400 and 450 areas, and the supports would be about, in case if the Nifty gets into a correction mode in the Nifty spot, if we look into, that's about 11,280 and 11,220 would be the support zones. So right now we are looking at these kind of market areas. These are the kind of intraday movement areas, especially where the index might be making a move or may remain choppy in between. Why? Because the Brexit is one among the major concerns of the entire, not just the European nation, but also the Asian continent is also looking forward into that. Now, coming back to the USD INR kind of supports and resistances, the first support would be 69 rupees 45 paisa, and the second support would be 69 rupees 25 paisa, and the resistance for USD INR, that's the 69 rupees 90 paisa and 70 rupees 15 paisa. So now coming back to the important investment aspects. Now, sir, actually, what happens is most of the people, they buy properties. There are people who, before the taxation planning, goes on at the same time before the financial year ends, some people are confused exactly, because we have received a couple of mails as such. That's why we are having this episode more importantly as on today, because so many mails getting accumulated who was having a common issue, facing like, whether they need to go for a property purchase, or if somebody who has a property, and want to sell it in the market, should they do it in the current financial year before it ends, or should they wait and do it in the new financial year coming up from the 1st of April onwards? Which would be the right kind of an opportunity?
Yeah, I will explain you, Anil.
Sir.
See, usually what happens when it comes to selling of any immovable properties, one need to plan. For example, those who are having a long-term capital asset, for example, any immovable property, if they hold it for 2 years or more, if they can sell it, that will come under tax rate under long-term capital gain at the rate of 20%. This is first thing. So there are two aspects where one needs to keep in mind. Point number one, see, for example, especially if somebody, for example, if I am planned to sell some of my property at this in the month of March, let us suppose I am holding the property, let us say more than 2 years. I can plan, if I can able to execute the sale deed or receive the full consideration in the month of April and get it registered in April, then what happens? My capital gains will fall under next financial year. Here the advantage is you can have a capital gain indexation benefit will be there. So you can have 1 more year indexation benefit for next year. So you can save a little bit tax over there. Of course, this is subject to the condition the seller also will keep in mind. Tomorrow if you want to sell, he may lose. One may gain and one may lose. So it depends upon the mutual consent. You can plan accordingly. This is one thing. And another thing, for example, this year I might have sold one property maybe in the mid or beginning of the year, whereas I've invested into a capital gains account, the investment scheme where I can invest into National Highway Authorities or kind of a investment. Let us say per annum I can invest a 50 lakhs. Already my gain, I've already invested into sold one property. Whatever the gain I've received, I invested. So if I want to sell next property, if I want to utilize that benefit, I am not able to utilize that provision under that section. So if you wanted to sell another property, maybe at the end of the year, you can postpone that into the next financial year. So that one more 50 lakhs you can deploy under that scheme under section 54 EC. So that benefit you can enjoy the benefit, the tax, the saving. So that lock-in period is there. After lock-in period, whatever money you are withdrawing it, that is absolutely tax-free. These two things one need to be careful about. They can think about these things.
Okay. So viewers, let's look into the market advances and decline which closed on yesterday, because this would give us the cues for today's market. Advances in Nifty 50 as on yesterday was 20 stocks and declines were 30, and the BSE 200 were 63 stocks advancing and declinings were about 136. And in BSE 200 there were about 2 stocks which remained unchanged as on yesterday, and IndusInd Bank was the top gainer as on yesterday in the top 5 stocks. That's Yes Bank, again a top gainer, Bajaj Finance, and HDFC Bank, along with that a public sector bank too. That also, all these closed with strong gains yesterday from about 2.5% to 4.5%. And if we look into the top 5 losers on yesterday, Bharti Airtel, IOC, Zeal, Sun Pharma and VDL, these were the stocks which lost between 2.6% to 4.3% as on yesterday. And looking at the provisional figures as of yesterday, the FIIs and DIIs, FIIs remained kind of strong buyers till yesterday, till the 13th of March, because starting from the 11th to the 13th, they were net buyers from between about 3,810 crores on the 11th of March, and again on the 12th of March they were net buyers again 2,477, and FIs were also net buyers on the 13th of March to the tune of about 2,722 crores. So this was like complete continuous investments have been done by the FII groups. Now what we need to look into is the DII's aspect, because they remain net sellers actually. But before that, we'd like to let our viewers know that the markets have just opened with gains of about 40 points. 11,382.5 right now currently trading at. Nifty currently spot the top gainers as on today, that is in the Nifty 50. That's again we have IndusInd Bank, which is also trading at about 1,636 as of now. And right now actually we would like to get the exact update also for all these stocks which the markets are going to look into. And right now what we are getting is the whole picture of the markets are going to look getting into the positive zone. But before that, we would like to also continue the discussion at the same time with Suresh Babu Garu, that most importantly, what is going to be the kind of concern for those investors, depositors who have been going for unregulated market segment, wherein the companies have been creating big number of scams, and a lot of investors deposits have stuck into that. But because I believe recently there have been a new announcement done on the unregulated deposits. Correct. So could you please tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think if you could see on 21st February 2019, there is an ordinance issued, the banning of unregulated deposits scheme. So which deals, actually in India there is no regulator connecting for all the deposits concerned into at one point. For example, Companies Act have its own definition, SEBI has its own definition. Recently you might have seen in the lot of news, what is a deposit scheme? If somebody gives loan to X to Y, whether it comes under a banning of unregulated deposit scheme. No. This is basically to protect the investors who were giving in the kind of loan or something to any business people. If anybody, let me tell you, if anybody takes any deposit, any loan for the purpose of business, it may not attract these provisions. To understand better, I will tell you one example. If, for example, if you say, usually which will connect it to everyone, if you look at into the construction industry, what happens if the construction in the company, if the builder is a private limited company, anyway, they should not supposed to take any deposits from the any individual or loan also from any, which is banned from the Companies Act. In the case of a partnership firm or a proprietary concern or limited liability partnership firm, as per the Act, they can take loans. Here when it comes, if any builder, before getting any approvals, suppose they take loan. For example, a builder is selling up 100 flats. If they take loans from, let us say, 30 to 40 people, this will be treated as a deposit, because your intention is people taking something with a benefit. If you can take as an advance, Yes, there is no doubt. You can take advance, subject to conditions. You have to think about RERA provisions, and you have to pay GST. GST will also come into picture. The moment you take an advance, you have to pay GST. Usually, people will plan to postpone their GST payment, and they will take as a loans, which is not permissible under this act now, under this ordinance, where one need to be very careful about it. And usually the people may ask, if I have some emergency purpose, if I take some amount from X to me, whether it comes under a deposit. No, definitely whatever you take as a pure personal purposes, it will not come under a deposit. And one more thing, what the people will do, if business people, if I need some money, whether these acts are prohibiting me to take loans. If the moment I take a loan, it is coming under deposit. What somebody may plan as I will take as an advance against selling of my goods. After a certain period of time, I may not sell these goods to that concerned person. I will repay the money. There are some genuine cases. Yes, absolutely. If you take genuine cases, there will be some trial. That is okay. If the person is doing regularly these kind of things, that will be treated as a deposit. If you take a deposit, if you default, the investor is under problems. Hence, this ordinance bringing into the effect any deposit taker, if it comes under that ambit, the penalties are huge. The imprisonment is minimum 1 year to maximum 10 years. And the penalty will start minimum 2 lakhs to maximum double the deposit, the aggregate deposit taken by the depositor. So this is one thing where, of course, it's a good when it comes to the small people, those who can lend the money to any business people or something. They are protected under this ordinance.
Okay. Actually, the viewers, the USD INR has opened about 14 paisa higher at 69 rupees 66 paise. And the 10-year GSEC bonds have yielded the gains about 2%. Right now, what we are looking at this is 2 bips at 7.39%. And now here we look into the other gainers and losers in the Nifty index right now. Those one are India Bulls Housing Finance trading at 716 rupees 50 paisa with gains of about 2%. Yes Bank is again gaining as well today. That's 248 rupees 40 paisa with about 1.7% gains. Z is in actually news. Expected that Z may sell about 20% of the stake at cost about 13,000 crore to Sony Limited, wherein this kind of stock has been giving a positive vibes as on today. That 456 rupees is the current traded price, gaining about 1.7%. And HCL Technologies is trading at about 1,039 rupees right now, with about 1% gains. And also a public sector unit stock, that's NTPC, is also trading at 149.45 paise, trading at 0.8%, 0.8% of the gains. And if we look into the top losers, that's Hindustan Petroleum, lost about 1.5%, trading at 263.80 paisa. BPCL is also trading with losses of about 1.2%, trading at 384 rupees 55 paise. And the other top 3 losers are Adani Ports, Tata Motors and GAIL. So these are the other stocks which have lost about 1% each, and right now trading with negative zone. So markets are looking at the kind of gains of around about a Nifty index is trading with gains of about 33 points at 11,375. So these are the market fluctuations initially are remaining very volatile. So right now market indicates to be getting into the zones of about 11,440 and 11,500 plus levels is what the experts are already being suggesting these levels, and also being suggesting the stop losses below about 11,200 zones kind of a stop loss, because those are the entry points. Otherwise the index has given an opportunity somewhere around 10,960 levels, the actual entry levels which were supposed to go for long. Now coming back to the investment scenario and the tax planning, especially because of the 31st of March is fast approaching, all the viewers should be and getting their things into the act right now, because what happens is recently we have been hearing so many GST frauds happening, sir. Most of the companies are giving fictitious figures and trying to get the GST credits, because even till yesterday in the entire print media was topping the headlines, like most of the GST frauds were coming out. Especially there were also companies which reported wrong numbers. So what is going on? Because the collections are getting with a different kind of a responses. But GST, in spite giving so much of transparency to input tax credit is also there, all these options were there, but still the kind of frauds are still going on. What is the reason for that?
See, what happens here, the GST now, it is the latest thing. Earlier, if you see, we have migrated from VAT to service tax to GST. When it was there in the service tax or VAT, the major drawback under earlier thing was, whoever taking input or raising invoices, there's no proper mechanism to track things. Now, the one major benefit under GST is, whoever the entire trail, wherever the goods are originating to the end up to the end level, the entire tracking is possible now. See, in this regime, what happened, the GST returns, sometimes the people may take it, the bills, even though maybe that's what, really we need to look into that, what happened, the real fraud or misfiling of their returns or whatever it is. Unless we can't see the exact picture, we're not able to comment on those things. Usually somebody may raise an invoice, they need to pay. If they could have been taken input. Here what happens, whoever raised invoice, they're supposed to pay their GST to the government. If they don't pay, if I take that invoice also, I may not able to claim that input into my books of account. Here, whoever providing the services or selling goods is to ensure to whomever I'm giving service or whomever I'm selling the product, the other party should supposed to pay that GST. If that is not happening, I can't able to take this input. This is one major drawback here. So whoever taking care about this, they need to ensure about their filing of returns, not only by me, whoever they're entering the other party. I need to ensure the filing of the returns and paying the taxes. Once they pay the taxes, I could able to adjust that into my input records.
Okay, so finally, what do you suggest for all those individual, employees and individual small kind of business people, especially they are so much of concern that whether they can have a kind of a nice, good, welcoming financial year starting from the 1st of April for the 2019 and 20. So is there any kind of a trick, and is there any kind of good kind of advice you would like to give? A professional's advice is more important rather than a trick, because what happens is the layman, as a layman, including other professionals like maybe engineers or doctors, they all have concerns when it comes to the financial year ending. Especially they want to do something good which can make them save some money, especially because they have big plans for their kids' education and going for a new house or something. What should be the right thing as a good Indian citizen and as a honest taxpayer?
Yeah, always I believe the consistent savings. Here there are two things. One is your saving your whatever the income tax liability, whether you are under a 5% bracket, 10% bracket, or 20% or 30% bracket. The moment I start investing, the first step which I used to tell the risk-free, the safe investment is, for example, if you take a provident fund, up to 1,50,000 rupees, everyone can go and invest into like either SBI or post office savings, which is locked in for a period of 15 years. Like that, there are so many investment opportunities. The one side you are investing, and another side you are also saving your taxes. These two things. Irrespective of your earnings, if you start investing on a regular basis, like in the stock market form, if you can say, systematic investment plan. In the same fashion, you can invest into mutual funds or these kind of provident funds on a regular basis. Here you are also saving tax, avoiding investing only at the end of the year. so that every month you can allocate some funds for your investments, and the tax burden also is you could able to save. So that's what the major concern is. Irrespective of taxes and savings, you need to develop a habit of saving. Some percentage is mandatorily on a regular basis.
All right. So viewers, you got the experts, ideas here, and the advices were given to you. Now, with this, you can, if you have any further concerns, because as the time is passing by, right now we need to close the show. But before we go, we would like to give you our mail ID. You can, we can address those concerns with the expert panel here, and you can also mail us at anilsingh@cvrinfo.com. So just get in touch with us. We would, help you further for any